Warning, we are not your attorneys. Please, don't take anything we say as legal advice. I'm Jeff.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Derek.
And you are listening to the Not So Grand Jury,
which is still sponsored by More Law PLLC. All right, so good day, everybody. We are coming to you, honestly, about 12 hours before we're releasing this. So you're getting this relatively close to live time. We were planning to release a version of Daredevil this week due to many different reasons, mostly Derek's being lazy / falling asleep on the couch early a couple times, as well as the Knicks game going a little later than expected into overtime. We're not doing that this week. Instead, we're going to do a fun little sidebar for you. The first bit of listener feedback, we actually did bring this up a bunch of months ago. This was a comment on Spotify from Jody. She had mentioned that if you want to do some silly psychic police stuff, you guys should really check out Psych, and then says, loving the podcast so far. Obviously, thank you for loving the podcast. I just wanted to note that that is actually on my list of things to watch in the next couple of weeks, and I would like to pick out a couple episodes. If anyone is Psych fans and wants to tell us what episodes to do, feel free to let us know. Otherwise, I'm just going to start randomly going through and finding some fun ones for us to handle.
I think I've seen maybe every episode of Psych, but
I've seen like several commercials for it.
See, I haven't seen any.
There's some interesting ones in there, some dealing with like pharmaceutical companies, and I think really any random Psych episode we would have fodder for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know, because I have not watched a single second of it. So this is going to be me doing a first watch. So this will be one of our fun times where one of us has watched it, one hasn't, and one has seen an advertisement, I guess.
And you'll see a totally different side of Dule Hill than you get in the West Wing.
Oh, fun. Okay. I do like Dule. I like Dule Hill as a actor, but he does some interesting, like between the one in the West Wing, his brief appearances on Suits. I don't know if you guys ever saw that he was on Suits for a bit. It was a unremarkable character in my opinion, but it is what it is. So I wouldn't mind seeing more Dule Hill. That's not bad. All right. Next one comes from, it's our fan mail. It comes from an Austin, Texas number. I'm looking at Jeff to see if this is someone he recognizes.
You think I might know like my family members' phone numbers off the top of my head, and that is not the case. Sorry, guys. Sorry, my kin. You're in my phone. I don't need to know your phone numbers.
Well. I guess then we're just going to assume that this is someone Jeff doesn't know.
I mean, I did go to high school there. It's entirely possible it's someone I knew from back then, but.
I mean, I know one of your family members that listens to the podcast, so it might be that person, but I am really curious.
Right, sure.
So Jeff is aware of who it is.
Yes.
And he's probably not going to tell us. So there are two comments from back in February. The first is, what's Derek Hofstadter all about?
Oh.
Jeff, as I think the biggest fan, or at least the one who brought us into The Good Place, would you like to take this question?
Yeah. So Derek Hofstadter is a character from The Good Place, played by the fantastic Jason Mantzoukas, who is a creation of Janet in the show, and Janet is sort of a foundational construct of the universe of The Good Place, with some random powers of creation. So she creates this kind of half person.
He's kind of a robot, but he evolves and gets smarter every time they turn him off or every time they restart him, and they eventually just restart him endlessly, so he becomes infinitely powerful.
Right, but still in a sort of not all there kind of way.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
But he announces himself as Derek. And then introduces himself again as Derek Hofstadter. And then Derek Hofstadter PI in an episode. And given that you share his name, I thought it would be fun to have a few selections on the soundboard of
Maximum Derek.
Maximum Derek.
right.
Okay, so that answers that question. The second question is, and this is a question in response to Michael Clayton.
Okay.
And the question is, I thought Tilda Swinton's character was a new hire and a journalist team was interviewing her. So I think this is when they sort of have her doing the sort of getting ready, the opening part. I never thought that she was being deposed, and I bet, and then there's a second part, which is I bet Don knew the smoking gun was about to be found, so he hired her to be the fall gal.
But do we ever see her being interviewed in the beginning? It's just her speaking to like an empty room. I assumed that was either her. It's been a minute since we watched it. I assumed that it was her either practicing to be deposed or practicing to speak to the investors.
She is, and at the start she is practicing to a mirror, and then that transitions to her sitting across a conference table from probably a journalist, just based on like the circumstances. And I think that's a valid read, that she's sort of new to the general counsel position. Maybe she was, an internal hire, or they brought her in from outside, maybe as a fall guy if they thought this was all about to break.
Man, imagine being hired for a job, and then your first time something goes wrong, your thought is, well, I guess I have to commit murder to like new job. I'd be like, well, I didn't know, and we got to try and fix this, but it's not my fault. I was hired, and the ship was already on fire.
Right, and you already had these connections for carrying out.
The lawsuit's already going on. Like you were just brought in there. How psychotic would you have to be like, new job, my dream job. Oh, I guess I got to kill somebody.
Pretty
Like
out there.
I based on that, I maybe she's just that crazy. I think it's more of she has been part of the company for a long time and just got this job. Maybe she murdered the other one. Who knows? But like, I think she's been part of this culture for a while, or else that is a weird decision to make.
It would be more likely if you had your fingerprints all over the bad decisions to begin with, and like you not doing this like makes you look even worse somehow.
All right.
Again, it's been months since we watched it, and I would probably I'll watch that movie again. I love it.
Yeah, no, I do like that movie. It is an occasional watch for me. So the next time I do watch it, there's a chance I'm going to.
You should totally watch Andor. Have you not watched Andor yet?
Does that have any relation to
It's
what we're talking about?
Michael Clayton is the third best thing that Tony Gilroy has done.
See, it's kind of funny that I just assumed that Mike was doing a complete non sequitur. That's really the assumption.
That's what I am.
Like I make that assumption before assuming that he was actually talking about something we were talking about.
If you like Michael Clayton and you can tolerate sci-fi, Andor is like the best spy thriller out there.
Okay. So it was related, but not really. Okay, got it. All right. Well, I will add a bunch of things to my list, and we'll be talking more about more things we're adding to the list.
Just carrying a bit from the Andor thing, given we have some friends with an interest in atrocity prevention and international law and things like that, there is a lot to talk about in Andor. So
I would an excuse for me to watch 2 seasons of like one of my favorite shows again. Sure. We can do that.
Derek will sit here and drink.
You should watch it, Derek.
It's really good. It's genuinely very good.
You don't need to know, like, I know we talk about like MCU shit and go a little too deep. You do not actually need to watch much of other Star Trek, Star Wars stuff to understand Andor.
And yes, you saying you go a little deep, that seems factually incorrect. Not accurate. But anyway, fair enough. All right, next we are going to take up a comment on one of our, it was a sidebar from probably a month or two ago. I believe we were asking for people to come up with some ideas for us. Username starts off with 21KTQ, and it just keeps going with a lot of random numbers and letters. So I'm not going to say the rest of it. But the comment is, love the guests, and then parentheses, and you guys too, I guess. Honestly, that's about right. That's how I feel about it. I love our guests more. As someone who occasionally does the editing, I like editing our guests more than us. So this all tracks. We like our guests more than us.
It saves us having to do a bunch of research because they're the subject matter experts. That's why we bring them in.
Yes, this is a reminder to people. If you're a subject matter expert, come on. It makes our life easier. But continue on. The comment is, you guys should do the movie Fracture. Would love to hear your take on the procedure. I have never watched Fracture. Have you
No,
guys
I
watched
can't even
Fracture?
picture what it is.
I don't know that I've heard of
Okay.
it.
So it's a 2007, and it's, according to the Wikipedia, it's a legal psychological thriller that stars Anthony Hopkins as basically the bad guy, and a pretty young Ryan Gosling. He would have been like 27 at the time, who plays a young district attorney. Very super quick sleuthing indicates that, among other things we could discuss, involve the exclusionary rule, including fruit of the poisonous tree, which I believe we've not discussed,
No, not really.
which is interesting. Double jeopardy, which I believe we've brought up, but maybe not necessarily head
Mike
on.
and I did that in a beta episode.
Yeah, I don't remember us doing like a lot of
that
double
episode
jeopardy.
out of the archives, maybe.
I
That might be an episode we could throw it. Yeah, we could throw it.
Do you know which episode it was?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were you?
We
What were
did
you
the movie
doing?
Double Jeopardy.
Oh, the movie
Yeah.
Double Jeopardy. Got it. Okay, interesting. What
The
year would that
least
have been?
appropriately named
Like-
movie.
Yeah, it was like this. So
Correct.
this whole movie is about how it's not actually Double Jeopardy, right?
There's also chain of custody, evidence tampering issues, and possibly prosecutorial misconduct.
Okay.
I think those are right in our line. So so to 21K TQ ... I think that's a great.
Can I throw another
wrap, so I can
non sequitur in there?
Why would I stop?
Search for young Hercules real quick.
Oh no!
It's not inappropriate, I promise. Tell me when you're there.
Oh, that's
It's a very
Ryan
young
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. It's baby Ryan Gosling.
My
Yeah.
God.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was expecting like 13-year-old Kevin Sorbo, but okay.
No.
A prequel to Hercules: The Legendary Journeys aired on Fox Kids Network.
I remember watching this.
Wow. When?
Yeah. I don't know.
One season, but 50 episodes.
That's what they used to do. Like,
Yeah, that was back in the day. Not like
shows
now where
back
it's like
then.
9.
I think the original Batman the Animated Series had like one season originally, but it was like 60 episodes, and then the second version of it was like when they changed the art style, it was like a whole different show.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Mike, for that non sequitur.
Here to help.
All right. Yeah, as always. Next comment. This was in response to our Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. It's a comment that was also on Spotify from MS, who said, "Fun fact, Gene needed to be talked into this episode. He didn't think we'd need lawyers in the future anymore."
Interesting.
Listen, I know nothing about Gene Roddenberry, so I looked this up very briefly, and it turns out that one of the writers, Melinda Snodgrass, wrote in her blog, this is exactly what happened. That like it sounds like she pitched the episode, and Gene basically said that in his version of the future world, people may, like anyone who has criminal intentions, they wouldn't last for long because they would basically just reprogram their brain.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it was more of a like,
That's horrifying.
that seems concerning.
That is rather dark for the Star Trek universe. Yeah.
And this was early, right? This is season 1, isn't it? Or 2? Like it's pretty early. So from what I could tell from doing a quick read, the way that Snodgrass got him to turn around was to sort of explain that like the people involved were all thought they were doing the right thing. This wasn't anyone with criminal intentions. Like Picard thought of Data as a person, Maddox thought of Data as property, and the JAG officer thought this needed to be hashed out in a court of law. They were all acting fairly, which is how that works. So even in the future, you're going to need people to make arguments because not everyone's going to have a perfect answer. But I did think that's interesting because any of you guys like know enough about Gene Roddenberry to feel like that's exactly accurate, or I'm sort of curious.
No, I mean,
No.
I've heard various stories of how, what his vision of the sort of utopian Star Trek universe was, but and frankly would have led to a very, very boring TV show. But because he basically thought by then we'll have grown past any interpersonal conflict. It's like, well, okay, then why? What do you? That's what stories are. Like, come on. But
Fair
okay.
enough. But I did think that was interesting. And I mean, I got to imagine if you're like the creator of a universe, a world, a whatever, you've got it in your brain. And then when you're surrounded by writers, I'm sure it gets challenged, right? And I'm sure in his brain, he had an idea. They're like, there's no lawyer. We don't need to have lawyers here. Why would we have lawyers? And then, if you have good writers around you, they're going to tell you why you need things that you didn't think were needed in the world.
I mean, the part of world building itself is so layered and like it's very easy to contradict yourselves. So it takes a lot of discipline and creativity to make a cohesive world. Randomly, what's coming to mind is I know it was Star Trek Voyager. They had like the show Bible, like was supposed to be like the guides for what's happening on the show itself.
Sure.
They had because Voyagers, like they're stranded out in some distant galaxy, so they have limited supplies. Like they only have this many missiles, and fans are like, well, they shot 2,000 times more than that.
Yeah, especially with the sci-fi audience, you have got to track everything.
I'm currently reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, which actually maybe at some point we could do. Fun little sci-fi fantasy, but there are a whole number of like legal elements in world building that you can see the author doing.
Oh, you're the second or third person to mention that to me recently.
I had the same experience. I was like, all right, I guess I'll buy the first book. It's good. I recommend it.
Cool. Moving on. All right. Derek's brain turned off until everyone stopped talking, and now he's ready for the next thing, which is another comment also by MS from a couple days ago.
A lot of feedback. Okay.
We did. I wasn't lying when I said we had feedback, and I hadn't read this until about 10 minutes before I opened our Zoom link, so I haven't looked this up. The comment is, I think an interesting point that isn't always brought up about the Nuremberg trials is that the selection of Nuremberg as the location was also very symbolic. Hitler had planned to make it the new capital, and it was going to be the center of the Reich going forward. So in some ways, the leadership was being judged at the place they had planned to make the altar to their victory.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if that's... I don't know anything about that, but I find that very interesting
that.
If that is in
that
fact
makes me
true.
happy.
I love that, and I got to wonder... That had to have been done on purpose, right?
I don't know enough about post-war Germany or the size of maybe Nuremberg was also just a convenient city because it was outside of East Germany and like.
Right. It could have been a convenient city because it wasn't crumbling.
Yeah,
I mean, it could have been a convenient city because it just made sense. I don't know, but I'd love to do a little research. If that's true, that's hilarious.
I always think that I want to do more like World War II reading, and that like stuff like that makes me happy actually.
I will say, I'm by no means an expert in any of this, but that does conflict, I think, with stuff that I have seen about, because I sometimes watch like just architecture videos about mega buildings and things like that on YouTube, and some of the plans for what they were wanting to construct as like the Capitol building and things like that, that were very much Berlin focused. So I don't know. I mean, not taking a side. I'm just saying these seem conflicting.
All I know is that it brings up an interesting point, and I want to do some research on this. And if I had, because it's just it would be very interesting if there was an underlying rationale behind it, because I feel like one of the reasons why Nuremberg worked was because they were trying to make it as fair and sort of like they're trying to make it fair trials given the situation. It would be interesting if like there was that underlying tone of, we're going to do this where you should have had a capital and now you're going to be tried at that place. It feels a little on the nose, but I wouldn't put it past
I would love to know more about it. It sounds, maybe. I hope that it's true. That makes me happy, but also it may have just been a coincidence or something.
Interesting. But anyway, I thought that was a very interesting comment. And then I have two more comments. These are all private messages I got from friends as recommendations for things to do. The first one I've already presented to you guys, which was Sheep Detectives, which is currently in theaters. My understanding is that it will drop to streaming sometime in the next month or so. Again, I've watched the trailer. It absolutely seems like it's something up our alley.
Yeah, and goofy as hell. So
right. Which again,
don't know anything about it, but okay, looking it up.
Mike's in, and then the final recommendation I got from another friend of mine, Emily, was The Housemaid, which is from last year. It was a Sydney Sweeney movie.
Didn't this get like terrible reviews or something?
We're not above that.
I was about to say, the first thing she says is, I should say it's not a great movie. but then goes like, it's got like divorce, adoption, custody of children if a parent's incompetent, murdery things. I could see it being interesting. And if it's a bad movie, well, that just jumps right into our wheelhouse of things we do. We've never stopped at good. We never recommend. You said, hey, recommend good movies.
We still have to do the Kardashian one, don't we?
We think we have our guest, so we need to get that figured out. Yes. But yes, although she's did you see she's no longer going to be a lawyer, guys?
And the world was deprived of our next Supreme Court justice.
They never said you have to be an attorney to be a Supreme Court justice.
Shit. You're right.
Uh-oh. Jeff has just seen the future. The Not So Grand Jury is sponsored by Morwa P. LLC.
The opinions expressed in the Not So Grand Jury are those of the hosts themselves and not of their respective employers.
The theme music for the Not So Grand Jury is from Gustav Holst's Jupiter and is in the public domain.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, if you want to suggest future movies, or even if you want to offer corrections, you can email us at notsograndjury@gmail.com or message us on any of our social media accounts.
The Not So Grand Jury is copyright 2026, all rights reserved.